welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass, and happy 2023. I am your host, Jay.
I'm other host, Nessa.
And I wanted to start out by saying happy birthday to my mom. She is a New Year's baby. Yeah. I tried to call her last night when it was midnight, and then in hindsight, I probably should have called her earlier in the day because right now she's in the Philippines, so she's in the future. Yes. So it probably would have made sense to do it because at the time, I was thinking, oh, I'll call her and then I'll go to bed. And then she didn't pick up. And then she tried to call me. Yeah, right? But yeah, then she tried to call me when I was going to sleep. I'm like, no.
My mom is also a January baby, but she's at the end of the month.
Yay. She a Capricorn?
No, she's an Aquarius.
I had a roommate as an Aquarius. They're an interesting type.
My roommate was also Aquarius. Wait, she is Aquarius, was my roommate.
You know what's funny about zodiacs? I was a week late, which is kind of fun for me to think about since it's hard for me to make decisions sometimes because I need to have nearly all the facts. Like, I just want to know what I'm getting myself into. And so it's kind of amusing that, like, I wouldn't leave the womb.
I can't remember. I think my due date was March 30th. And my mom, like, I obviously wasn't born on my due date. And my mom was worried that I was going to be an April Fool's baby.
Oh, no.
I was not. But I don't know if that plays into my personality.
I just wanted to wish everybody well during this past couple of days that we've had massive rainfall.
Dude, the floods.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I didn't leave my place at all this past weekend, and outside of having to take my dog out, and shout out to all dog owners with their pets not wanting to go out to do their business. But yeah, I saw some videos out there, like even in San Francisco, they're freaking...
Did you see the little geysers in the street?
No, but I saw folks that were bringing out their surfboards and they're just...
Oh my God.
So, I mean, you know, people kind of trying to make the most of it, but it's crazy.
Yeah, they shut an entire freeway down.
I did hear that I think 101 was shut down and you had to... Whatever the other freeways that are accessible to you.
I had to do that.
Yeah, but it's crazy.
My dad was showing me videos of, like, cars driving around in the city, and the water pressure was just too much that the water was coming out through, like, the manholes. Oh. And so it looked like little geysers throughout the street.
Crazy. Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
My New Year's resolution is to work on my mental health and be happy and healthy. That's
good. I don't really have any. I used to do it just because I felt like, oh, that'd be a nice thing to do, you know, keep yourself on track. And then what most people just kind of fall off after like the first couple of months. But
it's just after January. I'm over it.
Yeah. But I think I'm going to get in the habit of taking vitamins again. I just wanted to take a moment to kind of think about anything you did this year for the holidays or reminisce about
last year.
What?
Last year.
Last year? What about last year?
You said this year, but it's last year now.
Oh, yes. So last year's holidays or past ones before that, if you wanted to share anything.
We celebrate Christmas on the 24th here, and so we had people over, and it was really nice. Like, it was chill, you know, me and the cousins hanging out. My brothers were both here. My older sibling couldn't make it because they live out in Baltimore, but you know, we all had a lot of good food. It was a lot of eating. I invited a friend over. He came by because he's not really close to his family, so he came over, and he got along really well with my brother, which was really nice to see. We went out to Safeway literally 10 minutes before it closed just to go get some abuelita's hot chocolate. So we had some of that. I don't know, it was really chill, and it was really nice just having the family together considering everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
As far as yesterday, one of my tias who lives like 4 or 5 houses down the street, she decided to host New Year's, but I was just not in the mood to be around people, so I didn't go down until like past 11 to spend time with them. And I did the countdown. We did the grapes thing. Do you know about the grapes?
No, I don't.
So in our culture, we have a cup of grapes, 12 grapes, one for each month of the year. And normally it's like we make a game out of it where 12 seconds to the countdown, you're trying to eat one grape every second.
That's funny.
Yeah. It makes it fun. But this year everyone was just taking their time eating it,
Yeah.
One of my tias ended up starting to choke at one point. I don't know what happened.
No.
But yeah, it's the grapes, everyone hugging each other, Happy New Year, and then the prayer circle, because my family's pretty religious in that way. Like for holidays, they have to do the big prayer. But yeah, it's been chill. Today we don't have any plans. I got out of bed really late because I couldn't sleep. Obviously we're gonna watch the Niners game after we're done recording.
Nice,
here.
yeah.
Because I'm tired of losing Sharks. So I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to.
Well, you know what? Maybe. So at the time of this recording, we haven't watched the Hawks game, but I'm hoping
that they lose.
Not against the Hawks. But I'm hoping
No, continue.
I'm hoping that maybe they just ended really shitty yesterday just to put that year behind us. I don't think that this year is going to be much better, but it would be nice to just kind of have, a nice first day of the new year, but I don't know.
Explain to me how the Sharks only have 11 wins this season and they're still only 4th worst in the league.
It's because the team we're going to go against today is somehow exponentially worse. They
only have 8 wins.
But they literally were able to do what, most Sharks fans feel like we need to do, just clear out the tank. Literally. They were able to do that. They were like, peace out during the off season with, their up and comings and whatever. They told Kane and Taze like, hey, you want out? Like they were legit in tank mode versus us. We're a bit in the middle where our hands are tied. So that's my explanation why we're only still 4th from the bottom.
But that's also a reason why I want them to lose tonight so that the Hawks get closer. Because the Hawks don't need a top 3 pick in the draft this year. They don't deserve it.
But I still want to have a good performance. I still want
good
to tune
performance,
into the
but
game.
Still lose.
The end goal is out of our hands. So, but but before we get into Sharks talk,
can we just admire how great the Niners are playing? Because
hell yeah,
they're fun to watch.
Yes, they are a lot of fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to that game today. I was reminiscing. So this year, didn't really do anything. Didn't really care to do anything. My mom left for the Philippines like a week ago now, and my sister and my brother-in-law have been stationed out in Washington for some time. So during the time that I was living overseas, the first year that I was out there, I moved out to Germany in mid-October. Didn't really know too many folks out there. I ended up having a friend from back home that was studying abroad in Scotland. And she was out there. She wasn't going home for the holidays. She needed to stay in the dorms because she wasn't going anywhere. And we decided, hey, why don't you come fly out here and I'll sneak you into the dormitory and you can stay in one of the vacant rooms. So we did that. I flew out to Edinburgh and nothing was open, but it was nice that we kind of made shift the Christmas dinner. She went out of her way to buy a wine that was directly from California so we could just feel like we were back home. It was just really nice.
That's cute.
Yeah. And then that same year, a coworker of mine for New Year's, we booked the day tour that left at like 4 a.m. in the morning, and it drove us all the way out to the Netherlands. And then from there, like we went to a, what do you call it? A cheese making factory? Cheese and shoe making factory, you know, because that's what they're famous for.
2 separate factories.
No, it was at the same location. It was like, yeah. I can't tell you what the layout was, but we started out with getting shown like how they make the cheese and stuff. And I'm not a big fan of cheese. Like I like certain cheeses, but that first room, I was like, am I going to survive it? Because you can smell all the cheese around you. And they have the big like bricks or whatever of cheese. And I'm just like, this smells so gross. Like, are we done in this room? Get me out of this room.
So do their shoes come with that pre-foot smell because of the cheese?
No, I mean they kept the rooms separate.
I
so
know.
yeah.
It's just really weird.
Yeah,
shoes made of cheese.
I didn't see any.
Oh.
But yeah, so they showed us how they make the cheese, and then we went into another room where they kind of showed us the equipment that they make the wooden shoes. The rest of the trip, we were kind of left to our own devices, and we just had to be back at like the location where the bus was. So me and my friend, we just went around Amsterdam. Our phones didn't work, so we just kind of had to play it old school. We found like some festival towards the end at this place. And then we figured, okay, we'll stay here until midnight. But then as soon as the fireworks go off, we have to jet because I think we had to be at the stop like at 12:30 or 1 or something like that. Or the bus was going to leave without us. And we didn't really think it through too much. Afterwards, we were like, oh crap, we need to go back to the bus, and the only thing we had was like the screen saved of the map I made to get back to the bus. And the whole time we're like running through the downtown streets of Amsterdam, there's like fireworks going off. Like we were thinking, oh crap, if we don't get to this bus stop, we're gonna be stranded. We're gonna have to find some hostel to stay at for the night. How are we gonna get back to Germany? And it must have just been fate that I managed to run down all the correct streets to get back to the bus. And then we just passed out on the bus and woke back up when we got into Germany. So
that sounds fun.
It was fun. I had a really good time.
Besides the panicking of almost missing the bus.
Yeah. So the Sharks.
I have to be honest, I haven't really been catching any of their games. I was able to catch a little bit of the one from last night. Missed the first goal. Actually, I missed both of their goals. But I saw that Šimić went down and is injured, and I just saw that they called up Cicek again. And then I saw them completely implode in the third period. So...
But Pavelski got so many points against us.
Dude, they just offered him a contract extension this morning too, just to rub salt in the wound. He's gonna retire a star and it's gonna suck.
I mean, if he wants to, I guess. We don't really know his true feelings, in regards to how that departure with the Sharks went down. And
I don't think it was too bad because he still was part of the tribute to Wilson during that ceremony earlier in the year.
Oh, I think it was the second goal where I don't remember who shot it, but the broadcast was trying to figure out who scored it because they weren't sure if Pavelski had tipped it or it was whoever the defenseman. And he got his stick ever so slightly on the puck. Like it had me thinking like over the last couple of weeks with because with Erik Karlsson being insane this season, and not to say that the moving of Burns has anything to do with that. I think it helps in a way because when we got Erik Karlsson, they were definitely trying to figure out how do we manage ice time with these two guys that pretty much if they were on separate teams, they would be the number one defenseman, right? And if you recall, there was a time when they tried to put both of them on power play one and it just didn't work.
Neither of them were playing defense.
Yeah, it's just they couldn't figure it out, which is crazy, but at the same time it's like, just because you have some really good players out there doesn't mean that the chemistry is going to be right. And I was thinking about how when we had Burns on power play one, it was pretty decent until we didn't have Pavelski anymore because Burns's bombs from the point were tipped in by Pavelski more times than not, right? And when you take that away, now we're hoping that it knocks into the goalie for the rebound. Someone picks up the garbage, puts it in the net. And that just wasn't working.
Can you imagine if we had Pavelski now while Karlsson's on a tear? How many points I don't think we'd be... Sorry. I don't think we'd be as low in the standings as we are now. I'm just saying.
But it was a money issue, right? I mean, if we didn't have Kane at the time, we may have had the money. But the way that Doug Wilson, given how back in 2013, was it? Yeah, 2013, when Boyle was up for his contract and he wanted... I think he wanted 3. I think they were only going to give him 2 or something. I can't remember anymore. And granted, he was coming off injury and things like that. But it didn't seem like Doug Wilson would have given that 3rd year, given his older age.
Pavelski was also coming off an injury. It's pretty much the same scenario, isn't it?
Are you referring to the major?
Yeah.
Well,
he was like majorly concussed.
I think it's a little different in a way because Boyle, his injury, like Pavelski was walking around after, like he wasn't going to come in and play, for safety reasons, but like Boyle was at home. He was having he was in dark rooms. He was, it was bad. And he came back too early and it showed. So I feel like it was way more significant than, I mean, not to downplay Pavelski, like his head knocking into the ice and whatever, but the fact that he, was being shown like supporting the team and stuff like that. Like Boyle,
he did come back to play too.
Yeah, but Boyle came back way too soon. So I think that certainly didn't help. But in any case, what I'm just saying is that I feel like as much as we didn't have the money, and I know Pavelski wanted that 3rd year, I just feel like there were multiple factors that there's no way we would have kept him anyway. But yeah, it's nice to see that he's doing well. I don't want the Stars to do well, even though I do like Robertson, but I don't want either one of them on the Stars.
Yeah. Is it luck for them to have drafted Robertson, Ottinger, and who was it? Heiskanen.
Heiskanen.
Whatever.
Heiskanen. I think it's Heiskanen.
Number 4.
Yeah, all in the same year. All in the same draft year. That's going to be us. That's going to be us this year.
I hope so, because we need something.
Yes. Yes, it will be.
I want top 3 draft pick. It doesn't matter where. I don't think the Sharks are getting Bedard, let's be honest. And
it's a new year. You don't know.
I don't think the league would want the Sharks to get the very first pick ever. I don't know. I have this theory that the NHL just does not like the Sharks. That's my theory. I'm just kidding.
I don't think they like us now because they put in so much effort into us, like over the previous decade, where
I missed most of that.
It's this year that the Sharks are going to win the cup, and after not being able to get there, they're like, oh, we don't care. On to the new shiny thing. So on that note, the playoffs don't look like they're happening,
right?
Which I'm fine with, but I just hope that coming on to the trade deadline that we make some moves that get us more draft picks.
Do you think we could trade for someone? Trade someone for pick?
I hope so.
For 1 pick at least. Who's worth a second?
Maybe if we trade Reimer with.
You don't think he's worth a second on his own?
No. Because, so we traded Middleton and a 5th round for Kakkonen. So I think because this draft is so deep, I don't see Reimer being close to getting us a 2nd round pick. Because it's just...
So package Reimer with LeBanc.
I mean, yes, I would love that. His salary is stupid, so I don't think it's gonna work. I wish we could do that. Who is dumb enough to take that trade from us? Please inquire. Yeah, well, that's us. I don't. Who does have a new GM outside of us?
Kraken. They're the newest.
New-ish. I don't think they would do that, especially because they have 3 goalies right now.
Who needs a goalie? I feel like the Stars.
No, they have Wedgwood. He's been decent. I mean, Ottinger is obviously their number 1, but when he's had to come in, I think he's been okay. Like, I don't think getting Reimer would make it any better. I was actually thinking, I was hoping in terms of, for our selfishness of getting something, but I don't know if they have any draft picks. I was thinking with the Oilers trading or signing Campbell in the offseason, and they parted ways with Mike Smith and I forget the other guy's name. So they desperately needed new blood on the back end. So they got Campbell, who hasn't really been playing for some reason. I think he's kind of, still adjusting, and the Oilers don't have time for it. And they brought up their AHL goalie who spent some time last season playing for them when they had all their injuries, and he's been really good. So I don't know if Campbell, I mean, he's getting over like $5 million, so I don't see how they add another goalie. I know that they're pretty up to the cap. So that's their problem. I would say the Canucks if they were anywhere near making the playoffs, because
Yeah,
with
we could
Demko
trade.
down.
We could trade Reimer for Bear.
Sure. Well, one of the things I was wondering about is what we do with all our defense right now. Because we have Kanija is back skating.
Oh,
And
is he?
mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. And we still have, what's his name? Nudavara, who was a Greer
Is he still on the
signing.
team?
Well,
He's been injured.
yeah. So, but he's only on a 1 year. And I'm wondering, I don't know anything about him, but I'm wondering, does he just unfortunately get cut at the end of the season because he hasn't had an opportunity to show us what he's got? And I think Harrington is only on a 1 year, so we have all these like defensemen.
Been impressed with Harrington. Like, I don't recall him sticking out in any game that I've watched. Benning is like a very mid. Although I think he has like the best plus minus on the team. I don't know if that says anything.
And as we found out a few weeks back, I don't know if it's still relevant, but he's first among defensemen at even strength defense.
Yeah.
Which has been our problem. Somehow we can do pretty decent at the PK, not including last night, but I like that. I like that he's I looked up some stats the other day, and he's got 1 goal and 14 assists this season, and the last season he only had 11 assists, and he in about half as many games as he's played right now. So
where is the hate coming from? I don't understand.
Because he's new, and it's easy to. Yeah, I mean, when you're coming into a new team, I don't expect you to just like slot right in and get going, because it's a new system, it's new guys. You need to find chemistry. The team sucks, so like.
Well, here's my question: how do you fix that? It feels like they got a new coach in, new assistant coaches. They should have a decent leadership with Carlson, Hurdle, Couture, and Meier. Should. And Vlasic, really, because he's been there forever. But it feels like their mindset just isn't a winning mindset. And so they're just shooting themselves in the foot in every game. How do you fix that?
I don't know. I feel like, especially at points during last night's game, they looked pretty competitive. I still felt that the Stars had an extra jump on us. But it was still a fun game to watch until we imploded. And I just have no idea what could be happening, because on one hand it's like the power play seems to be clicking and it's interesting. Yeah, so the special teams are there, but once we get on to even strength, it's just that we can't keep going for the full game.
It's frustrating, for sure. I don't get it. And it's not like, I know the team isn't great. It's not like we have superstars on the team other than Carlson currently. He is the star. But like, they should have a decent core, right? I feel like the team shouldn't suck this much.
Timo, Hurdle, Carlson. Do we still incorporate Vlasic into the mix? Yeah, sure.
Do we even incorporate Ferraro? He's been kind of MIA this season.
Well, I feel like he's playing a lesser role than, because he's been playing on the
third pairing,
second or third line. Yeah. I mean, when we first got him, or he came up into the Sharks, he was playing with Burns. So he was getting top line minutes as the equivalent of what Magna's doing with Carlson right now.
Yeah.
Which I think, was fine for him just to kind of, get going at the NHL level. And now he kind of has to hold his own, and if that's on the third line, I mean, offhand, he hasn't done anything in particular where I feel like he's having a terrible game. I just think he's not standing out quite as much because he's not on the ice nearly as much as he used to be.
Yeah. And it's just frustrating too because, Gregor could be such a good player because he's speed. He gets a lot of breakaways. But for some reason, he can never.
He's the new LeBanc. He's LeBanc Jr.
I don't get irritated with Gregor as much as I do with LeBanc, though.
We've had more time with LeBanc, and I feel like that just needs to. We're probably not going to get rid of him. We probably need to
wait out the contract.
Hope that he just.
The thing with LeBanc is that he makes such boneheaded plays, and it's just like, what are you doing? Whereas Gregor, it's like, okay, if you just had this one thing, you'd be there, right? And that's the frustrating part, where it's like, your feet have speed, but your hands do not.
I think the thing with LeBanc is, like what we've said over and over again, is he only does well with the top guys. Like, he's had some really great moments over the last, month, I guess. We'll just randomly throw it out there. But then after that excitement subsides, then I remember, but look at who you're playing with.
Yeah.
I don't like that. That's the only time where he can really shine, because now you're dependent on being around these dudes versus your favorite currently this season, Nico Sturm, who is on the freaking third line, second power play unit, plays nearly the same amount of minutes as LeBanc, and 9 goals, 11 assists last season, and then 9 goals, 3 assists this season.
So far.
Yeah, and LeBanc has 9 goals, 12 assists this season, and his high was in 2018-2019 with 56 points. So Sturm is literally right there next to LeBanc, getting paid $2 million. So
less time on the
less than half than what LeBanc is getting paid right now, and we still have him for this year and the year after.
And Sturm actually plays defense.
Yeah. So
I really
it's
like
really
his style
frustrating. Yeah.
Like, if there's anyone we could keep from this season, Sturm would definitely be one of them. Benning, I'm still like, I'm okay with him. Who else is on the team? I don't mind Nieto just because he's really good on the PK, because you noticed when he was injured, our PK sucked.
And Nieto is getting paid just above league minimum, $850K. And this year, he's probably trying extra hard because he's up for a contract.
Yeah. Who else? Svechnikov hasn't really been doing anything.
He's been okay.
Lindblom.
I think he was playing on the fourth line last night. And Lindblom,
he has like 3 goals in 10 games, but hopefully he's going to pick up the pace there.
Yeah. That's my feeling. Like, hopefully he's like getting into the mix now. He's got 3 goals, 4 assists for this season, and last season he had 12 goals and 14 assists. His career high is 33 points back in 2018. But like all the guys that Greer signed are in that like prime window. And so far, I mean, given the state of our inability to put together a winning streak, these guys coming in and getting onto the score sheet, you know, I feel like are definitely trying to make an impact. Like, I like what I'm seeing. I think the guys that are from the Doug Wilson era, those are the ones that are glaring at me, because I'm wondering with the new GM, I mean, he's clearly they're no longer favorites, right? They're not teacher's pet.
Yeah.
So especially with someone like LeBanc, like, does Greer even care about, you know, what he's showcasing?
I am worried about Timo because he's still playing at a really good, like, high level. He's up for a contract this year. The Sharks are not doing well. I don't want the Sharks to trade him anymore. At the beginning of the season or even before, I was like, trade him. It's fine. You can get really good draft. I don't know, maybe multiple draft picks for this kid because he's playing so well. But then I feel like the Sharks will probably regret it if they trade him.
I'm on the fence. I definitely feel like you said at the beginning of the season, like, no, trade him. We desperately need to refill, you know, the prospects. I don't like the idea of him playing on another team, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I like him, but I want the Sharks to look better. And I felt like if we kept him, we were going to put ourselves in a chokehold where we could not, like, make any moves, especially with all these, like, longer contracts, high, you know, salaries and whatever. But over the last, month or whatever it's been, with him and Erik Karlsson connecting like crazy,
yeah,
that is concerning to me. I think the fact that Erik Karlsson has a no movement clause, and with the new GM, you know, he could decide, you know, after the season or the next season that he doesn't want to be here anymore and he would like to get traded. And I wonder if what we do with Timo will factor into that, because right now yeah, they're doing really well together. If you take Timo out of the equation, and they're like, you basically
are tanking the rest of the season.
Yeah, you're making the active decision that we're pretty much in a rebuild, as much as like we could say that. So as somebody who is he's like in his early 30s now.
Who?
He hasn't won Karlsson.
Oh, yeah, I think he's like 31 or something.
Yeah. He hasn't won a cup yet. So if I were him, I'd want to peace out.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't really have too much loyalty to us like he did with the Senators. So I can see, like, in a couple of years, like, that would be more manageable for Greer to find someone to take the trade. But yeah, it's I don't know. Thankfully, we don't have to make that decision, because
no, we just have to deal with it once it's made.
Yeah,
cope.
But I think it's gonna come down to how management feels in regards to Timo and what Karlsson decides what's best for him. I don't see him going away anytime soon, like in the next couple of years, just because that contract is just that, like, we'd have to find a really stupid GM. They'd have to be really desperate.
I don't know about desperate. I mean, he is producing right now, and if he keeps that up.
No, I mean in terms of like taking that contract. Like who in the league has that cap space?
Yeah, I guess just because the cap space isn't moving up. But if you think about it, hypothetically speaking, he wins another Norris. That's a 3-time Norris Trophy winning player right there, and I think that's worth the contract. Just saying.
Well, one thing that I've been seeing going around about the Norris talk is them saying whether he would even get into the running if the Sharks don't make the playoffs, which I don't really know much about. I think it'd be terribly stupid if...
I thought the playoffs didn't count for Norris. It's literally just...
But in terms of like who would be nominated based on the fact that they're on a team that makes it into play. I've just been seeing folks talking about it. I don't know much about whether that factors in, if that were to be the case, yeah. But yeah, I think what worries me about if we move him in the next couple of years, if he wanted to, it's just we're gonna end up we're gonna lose that trade
again.
So, but speaking of trades,
who are we trading?
Do we still feel like we're gonna get rid of Reimer?
Probably. I feel like he's really the only movable piece right now, other than Timo. Like the other guys are what do they do? I guess Sturb would be pretty valuable. Don't trade him.
I don't think we will. I hope not.
I don't think the Sharks are in any position to even consider being part of the playoffs again. You know, like that's out of the question. Reimer, assuming he's still not dealing with an injury secretly, I think he could still be traded to a competing. But the thing is, like, who needs a goalie right now? I don't know, man.
I was wondering about if... So I already mentioned the Oilers, but I don't think that would happen.
The Leafs seem to be doing fine now. I haven't heard anything about the Caps, if they're going to be in the playoffs. Like, I was trying to look at the standings to see who's in it.
I was kind of thinking about the Devils. I don't know if they have anything to trade, but their goaltender situation, I think, is kind of like the ship is balancing itself out now that Blackwood is back.
I wonder if Reimer would even consider going to the Devils, because he's a very religious fellow.
Oh, yeah. But now that I think about it, they did pick up Vitek Vanacek over the season. So, So Devils are off the books now.
Hurricanes?
No. Actually, let me talk about the Hurricanes. Because I am frustrated with the Canes. Because, as you know, I play fantasy.
Yes.
And their star goalie, Frederik Andersen, has been out for a while for injury. So they've been playing Antti Ranta, and I don't recall his first name, but last name Kochekov. Kochekov is like their up-and-coming goalie, probably going to take over, as number one at some point, blah, blah, blah. And he came in late last season because they, again, had injuries. And he's been playing really well in the absence of Frederik Andersen. So well that granted the Canes are pretty damn good. He had 2 back-to-back shutouts. And all of a sudden, they're playing Ranta for 5 straight games, including a back-to-back. And I have Kochekov on both my teams, and I am pissed because I have not been able to get a start with him, and I know it's because they want to trade Ranta. They're like, shiny thing, come get him, and I'm like, put in Kochekov. Because I thought, is he injured? Because I think he was supposed to start, and then last minute they put Ronta in, and they said that, you know, he was dealing with something, like maybe pulled something in the game before or whatever, which is fine, you know, and they had Kachekov on the bench, so he hasn't been put on IR or, you know, whatever. They keep saying he's healthy, and I keep wondering, what are you doing? But in a nutshell, the Canes are really they're good with their goalies. Who was I was thinking maybe the Rangers.
They're not in the playoff picture though.
But they could be.
I guess.
There's still time.
Yeah, they're only 3 points out.
Yeah. They're just having something out there right now.
One Reimer for one Mika Zibanejad.
You know what? All logic aside, I'm welcoming in that trade.
Look, the Rangers, Islanders, and Penguins are all at 44 points. So either of those teams. The Islanders, I feel, have been struggling a little bit. I haven't heard too much about them. I don't even know who plays goalie for them. Caps, we already
Sorokin and Varlama.
Red Wings? I think they're in the wild card spot right now.
They're just outside of it, 39 points, and the Islanders are in the second wild card with 44.
What about the Avalanche?
They have Francois, who is pretty decent.
But who's the backup?
He's a decent backup. I would put him there with Reimer. Like, they're kind of reliable as long as they have pretty decent defense in front of them.
Which they've been struggling with this year.
Well, that's because they've been hit with the injury bug.
So many injuries.
McKinnon just came back for his first game yesterday, and I didn't watch it, but they didn't do well.
They didn't do well. I don't know, man. Maybe he won't get traded. Nobody needs goalies anymore.
I know, it sucks.
Unless the Leafs, with Murray going down with an injury again or something.
Well, a lot could happen in a month.
It's true.
Not that I want anyone to get injured, but I also want draft picks.
Like, what could Reimer bring realistically? A third? A fourth?
I mean, hopeful a third, but because of the draft, I don't know. But at this point, would you rather keep him or get whatever you can? Because if we're not going to the playoffs, and if a team needs a goaltender, I mean, as much as I like Reimer, as much as, the Sharks need solid goaltending after how many years of hit miss. I mean, Jones is living his best life right now, which is good for him and everything. Yeah. Well, I think over the last couple of games he's been struggling. So that probably goes back to, with as much as we liked our time with you, we needed to move on, because it just I think I would rather try to get something for Reimer for this upcoming draft than not move him at all. And if we did move him, do we bring up Makiniemi?
I could see us bringing up Dell just because he has the most NHL experience, and then just letting the other goalies develop. Because I'm actually excited about Man. For some reason, they won't give him a lot of opportunities to play, whether on the Kuda or who do they send him to? The Thunder?
Thunder, yep.
Like, I heard that he hasn't gotten many starts on that team either, and I don't understand why. Like, they're just shipping him back and forth. Just
poor dude. That must be rough.
So,
especially being in the Midwest. I mean,
like, what is there to do in Kansas?
There is nothing, because I've been to Wichita. There is nothing. Have I told you that story?
Mm.
My sister and my brother-in-law were stationed out there for I think about a year. It's like the first year my brother-in-law was in the military.
I don't remember.
And if you ever meet my sister, you would be like, "Oh, you poor thing." So just
well, you did say she was in
is.
Aries, so I could see it.
And she's a bit of a goth, so yeah, just kind of picture that out in the Midwest, Kansas. And when I was moving back to California, I decided, I'll put you on the road trip to go visit. And I was there for a week. She was working in the morning, so we would like hang out during the day. And by the second or third day, when we went out for lunch or something like that, we hadn't done anything yet. All we've done is she's come back home, we've gone out to lunch, we've gone back to hang out at her place, and then that's it. So I was thinking, well, at what point are we going to go do something? And so the second or third day, I started asking the question, and she cut me off, and she said, "There's nothing to do here."
We are doing what there is to do here.
We are doing what people do here. We go to lunch, we go home. I'm like, okay.
Oh, depressing.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's something I haven't been able to keep up with the CUDA or really anything related to the Thunder.
Oh my God, we convinced Nate to get the AHL TV. Like, yeah, we'll share it, we'll split it. I haven't used it. I used it twice.
Me too. I used it twice. New Year's resolution: watch more CUDA games, so we can have a better idea about our up and coming prospects. Because speaking of
they're
which,
struggling too. But
I think Bordelot is the leading goal scorer on the Barracuda right now.
Yeah. It's funny because a few games ago they put up the stats between him and Eklund, and it was almost flipped, where Bordelot had 12 goals at the time and say 11 assists, and then Eklund had 11 goals at the time with 13 assists or something. So it was are they just assisting each other's goals?
What are your feelings in terms of fans wanting to see them come up right now?
I can understand it because fans are frustrated, but I don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm. I am on that same thought. Because I feel like if we bring them up, I mean, even if it's just, just show us what you got type of thing, I don't feel like it makes sense, because at the end of the day, even though the Sharks are not good and we want them to do bad, as in terms of for the draft, if you're just not going to be good, then just be really bad so we can get draft picks. The reality is that the management, the coaching staff, the players, they're going to still continue to try and play their best game. And I think if you bring them up, you're kind of messing with whatever chemistry that they're trying to put together. Because this is, from the beginning of the season, when, we had all the changes, GW had to step down, Greer came in, got new coaching staff, this is the season to work out those kinks. I did not, this is going as planned. I did not expect us to suddenly flip on a switch and now
playoff
we're
contention.
amazing. Yeah. I mean, if it happened, it would have been really nice. It's great to see Carlson. He is just insane out there.
Just imagine the possibilities if we had good players, or if Hurdle wasn't having a slump, this team could have been exciting.
And instead we only get one period of that, and then you have to look away.
Yeah. Oh, I do have to give a shout out to Barabanov, because he is...
Yes.
holding down the fort, it feels like. He is doing some good stuff out there. He doesn't have a lot of goals to show for it, but he has a decent amount of assists.
He's getting there. Mm-hmm.
Dude grinds, man.
Love to see it. Love to see it from Barbie.
Mm.
Oh, one guy I had on my trade deadline prospect. How do we feel about Benino? Do we feel like he's
producing more this season than last? Last year, I feel like he was struggling. Like he couldn't get anything going for him. But this year, I see a difference. Like he seems happier. He's scored a few goals now. I don't know. I feel like he's stepping up. Are you talking about like trade wise? Would we be able to trade him? Probably not.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about it if he even cares, because he's already got the 1 cup against us.
Yeah.
So so he just made my list because I was just wondering, like, who could we move to get anything? Like him, Reimer, maybe Nieto, just because he's just...
To be honest, Barabanov could go if someone wanted a first line grinder or something, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't want him to go.
Yeah.
I get attached to these people.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Should we move on to some queer talk? Did you watch the original L Word?
The original, yes. It's been years, but yes.
Okay. Did you watch it while it was airing? Did you watch it there?
I binged.
Okay. So I started watching it while it was airing, I think around season 3. So that might have been 2007, something like that.
That was
and I think
way before I even accepted that I was queer, so.
Oh, okay. I had come out I think 2004. So and that was just coming out as a playing around with being bi, because I knew, okay, I have feelings towards a friend who...
It's always a friend.
So at the time, we both identified with the gender we were assigned at birth, and that had never happened to me. And so during the time when I was watching the L Word, I was identifying as a bisexual woman. And so I'm like, okay, here are, queer women. Like, yeah, this is a show that has me in mind, blah, blah, blah. I think the closest I felt connected in terms of characters is probably Dana.
Dana was the one who...
The athlete that got cancer and died.
Yes.
And...
Oh my God, that was so sad.
Yeah. Because I think in terms of personality, because she was a bit awkward.
Spoilers, by the way.
And yeah. If you haven't watched it by now, how dare you? Because I wanted to identify, I felt like I could identify with Alice, but then I kind of just didn't. And I didn't like that. I mean, while she was the token bisexual character, she dated like one dude.
Yeah.
And they didn't really highlight it too much. And I felt like there was a lot of undertone biphobia around it. And then just personality wise, I couldn't really connect with Alice. I think gender identity wise, I felt like Shane was the closest, but then not really, because everything else about Shane is like, nah, like I can't identify with any of that. What were your thoughts in terms of the original?
I don't remember, because I'm pretty sure I watched it after I had come to terms with the fact that I was queer. I think I started accepting it around 2011 because it was like my second semester in school or something. And it was just I can't remember like if I had watched another show before that had like queer characters or what, but it was like new to me. I didn't have a lot of queer friends growing up. I'm an introvert. I don't get out of the house. Like I don't go to like these queer spaces very often, so it was just kind of a way to connect with that side of me, right? So obviously it's very superficial, and like I don't know if this is exactly how queer people act in like it's very dramatic, but it was something to connect to that side of my identity with. So I enjoyed it, the drama, I guess, like you get sucked into it. But I don't know, there were some cute parts. I think Shane and Carmen, I think was her name, were my favorite couple.
Carmen was so hot,
wasn't she?
And then we all know what happened, and then I was just like, Shane. I mean, I understand Shane's struggle. I guess that I can relate with that, but not to that extent. But at the same time, I'm like, Carmen.
Yeah.
She was the best for her, and shit gets in the way. Huh. Anyways.
Yeah.
But recently with the new,
which I haven't watched,
L Word.
Mm-hmm. No spoilers.
They so the producers, I think, or the however it is from the original, but the person who's kind of like leading the charge, the director, however the hierarchy of it is someone new.
Okay.
And I really like their approach because not only are they making it more inclusive, obviously there's more people of color. There's a trans man. There's several, there's a main character who's trans, and then there's there's people along the way who are non-binary and other trans folks. They brought back some of the originals. I was always in love with Tina and Bet, even though that I think that was probably the closest to a relationship that I could maybe connect with, just because everyone else was a little more, nightlife. Yeah, and they were more domesticated with, their own struggles. So it was something that I could kind of, relate to in terms of like things I've experienced in the past and, where I'm going. And recently they brought back the character Max. And if we recall from the original,
that storyline did not go down very well.
Transphobia up the yin yang. And at the time, as I pointed out, I think he came in around season 3 or 4. And at the time, I was nowhere on the spectrum of questioning my gender identity. I was fine identifying as, a bisexual woman, but there was always something that was kind of like lingering in the back of my head where I was like always feeling a little off about something. And it was probably because, lesbian culture didn't sit with me, or I didn't sit well in that culture. I was getting pegged a lot as a butch, and I was like, what the hell is that? Like, there was just these stereotypes of, how people are in that space, and I never really fit that mold, and it just kind of furthered that point with the original and how these certain characters were, and I just struggle to find someone who I felt like I could latch on to and feel like I was being represented. And I think Max was probably like the closest to that, even though at the time I'm like, but do I feel like I'm on this journey like Max is? And for a while, I kind of spent time in that space, like contemplating it. I like looked into other people's experiences, and I just say, no, that's not it. That's not it. But when you're trying to find yourself, it's so crucial to have quality, genuine representation. And the way that the L word just was so disrespectful to Max, to the actor as well. Like, I've read a little bit about how he experienced transphobia on the set.
I didn't know about that.
And I didn't know about that either. I read an article that he an interview that he did recently to talk about his return, and it's just for the one episode. So the return for that one episode. And at the time, I don't think that he was out. Like, I think in the recent years, he's come out and he's been transitioning. But, when you're showing folks this type of representation where there's biphobia, there's transphobia, there's, it goes back to how nowadays, we're telling more stories that don't end with killing off the queer characters. Like, we get to have a story. We aren't just our identity, but to see someone like Max where it's like, no, like, you even the community that you're supposed to feel included in and will accept you and whatever, they still leave you in the end. It's like, it's a little disorienting with how to feel. And I was pleasantly surprised when he showed up in the episode, because I didn't even know. A day or two before I watched the episode, I think I saw some tweet or whatever, but I didn't know when he was coming into episode until he did. And I just was so excited to see him. I was excited to see that they had done justice to his character. There's moments, no spoilers, but there's moments in there where I felt like it was done in a way to apologize for how the character was treated in the original. And I think those stories are incredibly important, because as somebody who was growing up during that time and knew that something wasn't quite right and couldn't figure it out, like, I don't need to see someone like that getting treated that way, because it just further reiterates my feeling of alienation from the community that is supposed to welcome me. We do matter, and we need to, and people need to stop treating us the same way that folks who don't accept us have been projecting onto us. So yeah,
it's interesting that, like, it's like you said, our community is supposed to be like super accepting about these things, but there's still a lot of these either microaggressions or very blatantly, like, there's this divide where, there's still biphobia. Like, I literally had a conversation with my older sibling because they were like, I don't agree with bi, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that's how I identify. But to them, it was like, bi means two. That means you're being exclusionary to people like me because they're non-binary. I was like, no, because I had this conversation with my roommate like a few weeks before, and I told them, no, it just means that you are, I think it, like, you can be, there's like this blurred line between pan and bi now, right? where I don't even know the difference. I just say bi because it's easier to say. Who knows what I'm attracted to nowadays? That's why I really just say queer. But, you know, I am very, like, much attracted to cis men and women for sure. I haven't really explored or met anyone else that I've been attracted to from, like, non-binary or trans or whatever, because I don't really go out into the queer community to these spaces. So I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I'm a very just cis men and women only. I don't know. But to them it only included cis men and women, right? And so that's why they have this sort of like, I don't like that, like, bias, it's so exclusionary, blah blah blah. But, you know, we sat down, we talked around, they're like, oh yeah, that makes more sense. But then why is it called bi? Because, you know, that prefix means two. I was like, I don't know, I didn't make it up.
I think it's the evolution of the label, and like you, I don't really understand the difference with bi and pan, but then ultimately it comes down to, after how many years of trying to figure out my identity, it's also why I just have landed on queer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
one of those topics where we can talk forever about it. So we have been talking about doing a series, mental health. I still don't know what I want that to look like. I don't know if I can even plan for it because it's such a big topic, but that's something to look forward to. I am currently struggling through some things right now, a lot of things. So there may be some times where I might not be able to show up for the podcast. I will be here for the guests, at least next week, because we don't have anyone lined up after her so far. But the guests for sure, because I really enjoy those episodes. But
and other than that, go Niners and grab bag for the Sharks today, for the Hawks. I don't know. We're almost halfway through the season, right? Or I think we're on game 31 or something like that. So, you know, the draft is just that much closer.
Trade deadline first.
Okay. Yes. We'll see what happens there. I'm all for it. Show us what you got, Greer. Okay. And with that, thanks for watching and listening to the episode. And I am your host, Jay.
I am other host, Nessa. Thanks for joining us.